subsequent disasters. On the day one, we discussed about the coastal ecosystem services offered by mangroves, like carbon offsetting, conservation strategies for mangroves, integrated coastal zone management, and interaction of physical and natural infrastructure in Sundarbans, covering various engineering and bioengineering practices. On behalf of RICA and NIDM, I welcome you to the day 2 of the online program. And today we have among us Dr. Tuhin Ghosh, who is the Director, School of Oceanographic Studies, Jadavpur University, and Dr. Lakshmi Narayan Satpathy, who is the UGC and Human Resource Development Center Director, Calcutta University, and also a Professor of Geography, to speak on two of the very important topics. So without further ado, we will start off with the first session with Dr. Tuhin Ghosh. So giving you a brief bio of Dr. Ghosh, he is a specialist on integrated coastal zone management, ICZM, natural hazards, geohazards, and disaster management, coastal tourism, and coastal hazard management. He was the India lead of Belmont Forum Deltas and DECCMA projects, and is currently the lead of the ongoing Living Deltas Hub. Dr. Ghosh, we welcome you to speak on the interlinkages of ecosystem services and livelihood with the examples from Sundarban. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Krishna Kuli. Very good morning to all the participants and my senior colleagues. My due respect to all my colleagues here. And I'm really feel proud that I got this opportunity to share some of my experiences. I think I am working in Sundarban for last more than 2 decades, and I have some experiences, and I want to share with you in a brief, because the time is a constraint, I know very well, and you have a lot of things to do today, especially. Yesterday was some inauguration and all other things. There was some relaxed session, but today is a very, very tight sessions are there. And so I think I should not say much more regarding all these things. Rather, I should go for the sharing the screen. And okay, just bear me for some time. Can you see the? Sorry, is this okay? Can you see the screen? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir, we can.
So I'll try to come up with some of my experiences and survey data and all other observations, and also the learning from the Delta dwellers, especially the elder people in the Delta. They are truly my teachers. How to connect with the ecosystem services, livelihood, and migration within this climate stressed Delta. So first of all, this is the entire GBM Delta. And if we see that the Indian part, the forest part almost inhabited. So this is the block zone. This is South 24 and North 24 Parganas, 6 blocks from the North 24 Parganas, and 13 blocks from the South 24 Parganas. But unlike that, the Bangladesh part, the forest zone is separated from the habitated zone. There is some buffer area, 10 kilometer and 10 kilometer each. That is impact zone and ecologically critical area. So nobody is actually living within the forest. But in our place, people cleared the forest and living within the forest since the British period. And this is another map we produced in our earlier project, DECMA project. You can go to this website and you will get a lot of resources regarding the Bangladesh and Indian Sundarban both. So this is in a nutshell at a glance. This is World Heritage Site by UNESCO, Biosphere Reserve, and especially in 2019, the Indian part of Sundarban also designated as the Ramsar Site 2370. And this is the only mangrove tidal land in the world. So you can imagine the sensitivity, the fragility of the ecosystem here. And these are some data regarding our Indian part of Sundarban. The data is changing. I couldn't really keep track with this because there are a lot of things are changing. The districts are being divided, and gram panchayats and number of villages are being increased. So I need to keep track on this. But the 85% population dependent on agriculture. This is true from the census data. 40% lives on less than $1 per day earning. 70% children malnourished, and 40% women are illiterate.
Sir, sorry to interrupt. The slides are not moving. I mean, there is some lag, I think.
Okay.
Show it in the PPT format.
PPT format would be good for the...
Yes, sir. The slides are not changing.
I don't know why. Anyway, just
could be a lag of the internet also.
But yesterday also I had some lecture. There was no problem. Yeah. Let me see the things. How can I resolve it?
Yes,
I'm
sir.
stop sharing. It's coming up.
Yes, sir. Now it is coming
up. Okay. So in the full screen mode, probably it is not working.
Yes,
I
sir.
think. Okay. So now you can see the things. Hopefully.
So you have to share the screen again.
Oh, okay. Sorry. What's happening? Sorry. Can you see now?
Yeah, it is better. Yes, sir. It is better now.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me try with this. So yeah, what I was talking about this GBM delta, entire GBM delta, this is the habitated area within the Indian part. This is the international boundary. And unlike our GBM delta, I mean the Sundarban Indian part of Sundarban, in Bangladesh, there are some buffer area, 10 kilometer and 10 kilometer each, ecologically critical area, and the Sundarban impact zone. So nobody is living within the forest. And this is another map. You can go to this website, and you can find a lot of resources from this website. This is sensitive with this World Heritage Site, Biosphere Reserve, and Ramsar site, what I have already mentioned. And this is the only mangrove tiger land in the world. And this is there are some data with some digits which are changing every day. But 85% population are dependent on agriculture, 40% lives on the earning less than $1 per day, 70% children malnourished, and 40% women are illiterate. So this is actually the map of the Indian Sundarban Delta. And if you talk about what is this line, this is the Dampier-Hodges line, started drawing around 1830 and 1834. The Dampier and Hodges, they delineated the northern extremity of the mangrove forest. So you can imagine how much forest was there at the time. And this is the Dampier-Hodges line, which is demarcating the Sundarban Biosphere Reserve and notified area. But all these areas are already inhabited, cleared the forest, and people started living since 1870 or something like that. And you know very well that the Sundarban biodiversity is a very rich biodiversity. And whenever we are talking about this ecosystem, we are always thinking that this ecosystem is basically a terrestrial ecosystem. We are concerned about the land and the people therein, but we need to think about that this ecosystem is basically thriving and influencing and regulating by the water, whether it is rainwater, whether it is saline water or the fresh water, everything. So we need to think about this ecosystem as an aquatic ecosystem. This is just from my experience, what I am observing for the last 2 decades. And this is the population growth since 1872 to 2011. whatever we could document. And you can imagine the extreme level of growth, and which is actually providing more and more stress on the natural resources like land, doing the agriculture, homestead, and other vegetable farming and infrastructure, water, drinking or irrigation water, forest, particularly fishing and crab collection is there. So this is tremendous pressure on the ecosystem due to the population growth. And this is the gradual process of land reclamation since 1770. It was started around that time, and we could compile it from available secondary data and land use land cover maps from different sources. This might not be very much accurate, but this is a kind of effort we have given there to document the things here. And there are a lot of cultural and rituals are there, cultural heritage. And you can see the Bono Bibi there, and Shagor Festival, Kopil Muni Temple. So there are a lot of things people are maintaining. If we talk about the climate issue, we can see that the temperature is changing, and the rate is like 0.11 degree centigrade per year. It's a gradual change, but people can feel after some time. And if you talk with the people, they will say you that, yes, the temperature is changing and the seasons are more hotter than the earlier seasons. The change in the total rainfall is there. Total rainfall is increasing at the rate 2.08 millimeter per year. And at the same time, the number of rainy days decreased. That is the implying that the higher intensity of rainfall, the total rainfall is relatively more prominent in post-monsoon. But whenever there is any rainfall, within shorter time, there is a lot of rain. So it's kind of towards that stagnation of waterlogging situation is there. So it is really harmful for the agriculturists and other people. The onset of monsoon is oscillating. Earlier, it went up to the month of August. Now it is coming back towards July or end of the June. So they cannot really come up with any kind of certainty from the weather pattern for their cultivation. So it's a kind of uncertain situation within the Sundarban agriculture system. Sea level rise is another issue which is being talked for so many times, but there are a lot of data which one we should consider. We don't know really, but if you see that 2002 there is 2.26, 2014 it's around 12 millimeter, which is a little bit absurd, and in 2019 around 3 millimeter per year. So we need to come up with some consensus. What is the exact sea level rise rate? And in 2019, actually, Shahana et al., they did a lot of work and detailed work on this. And they found that near Shagor Island, this is around 2.9 millimeter per year. So it's just above the mean sea level rise, global mean sea level rise. But within the river system, that is a little bit different. And in Diamond Harbour, it's around 4.1 millimeter per year. So depending on the topography, the river bathymetry, all these things, there are a lot of changes, a lot of variations in the sea level rise rate also. And if we look through the river system, if you see the rivers, so there are at least 8 prominent river systems within Sundarban. This is the Hooghly River, this is the Muriganga, and Shaptamukhi, Thakuran, Matla, all these rivers are there. But only these 3 rivers, they are getting some fresh water from the upland, but all other rivers are gradually becoming like tidal creek. In the high tide, the water enter into those creeks or the river system, so-called, and come out, flush out during the low tide situation. So the change in the salinity, change in the pattern of the vegetation is gradually going on, but that is being unnoticed, or because there is no such detailed research in this topic. So we need to concern about all these things. And obviously the cyclones. These are really doing a lot of harm to the community, their livelihood, their living standard, all these things. So from the 2005, we can document so many cyclones with different kinds of intensity, but we can see the intensity is becoming a little bit higher. But whenever we are talking about the frequency, we need to consider that how many depressions actually formed in the Bay of Bengal and how many cyclones really occurred. So in that way, actually, the frequency is not really increasing, but the severity is really increasing. So the damage, loss and damage is a major topic now in the COP27. So the damage is much higher than the earlier time. Maybe the reason is that the population has increased, the infrastructure has increased. So maybe the damage, the estimated damage is also high due to that. The issue related to the water, sometimes there are excess water. You can see this is just after Ayla. I went there in the village. I used to roam around and I couldn't really differentiate the land and the water part, but I could differentiate it finally that with this tree and the rooftop of any heart. So this is a situation after Ayla. We have to think how to cope with this situation in near future. And besides the excess of water, there is shortage of water also. So you can see the people are in a row to collect the drinking water pouch from the boats, the relief boats, and they are the chest tip of water, and they are getting some relief after this kind of cyclonic situation. But they didn't really store any rainwater during that time, though there were a lot of rain. At least 3 consecutive days there was rain after Ayla. The major livelihoods, we are now approaching towards the ecosystem services. The major livelihoods based on the ecosystem services are basically agriculture. Earlier time it was monocropping. Now some places we are getting 2 crops, some places, a few places we are getting 3 crops also. So agriculture is a traditional practice, and people used to have some riverine fishing within the river system. They go for the crab collection. They do the honey collection, but once in a year for 14, 15 days, they get the permission from the forest department. And this prawn seed collection was earlier very much popular because the prawn seed price was much higher. Now the Andhra prawn seed larva, they are sending within a pouch. So this prawn seed price has dropped. So very few people still they are engaged in the prawn seed collection. And if we see the agriculture part, the cropping intensity in the Sundarban, this is the North 24 Parganas Sundarban, this is 41%. South 24 Parganas Sundarban is 31%, whereas the state cropping intensity is 77%. So much higher than the Sundarban cropping intensity. And this is the Goshaba block, just for example. In 2008-9, there was the almond cultivation was like this, and the Boro cultivation was like this. So it has dropped in 2012 and 13. And again, the average production a little bit in the Sajjelia Island, what we are actually surveying, that has a little bit different from this kind of total production in the Goshaba block. So Sajjelia Island is within the Goshaba block, and the yield is very, very low in comparison to the average yield in the Goshaba block. So there is some problem with the agriculture system. The fertilizer price has increased a lot. The pesticide price increased a lot. And again, the availability of labor and the labor cost is much higher. That is the issue. And again, if you produce much more than your capacity to intake all through the year for your family members, then you cannot really sell it, and you will not get a proper price. So there is some kind of reluctance in the agriculture system, and also due to the uncertainty. So the reluctance, there are some reasons that the new generation, they are being educated, but not employed. and they are not having any kind of traditional knowledge of agriculture. And there is lack of irrigation water, uncertain rainfall, marketing and proper price of excess grain, high cost of labor and fertilizer pesticide cost, absence of salt-tolerant high-yielding seed in proper sense, absence of crop insurance. And that's why the number of cultivators are decreasing in the Sajeli Island, for an example. But the agriculture laborers are increasing because they are getting assured job and assured remuneration out of their work. And people dependency on the non-timber forest product is higher than agriculture. It is already documented. So people are not really interested to come up with any kind of agriculture practices due to all this uncertainty. And whenever we have surveyed, there is no such documented data methodically collected or monitored in view of the ecosystem services. So we tried to collect the data from the people, and with this primary survey data, we can see the fish and crab and honey, everywhere there is some drop in the per capita collection and the yield also. So in the ecosystem services part, we can see there is some kind of a decrease in their capacity, earlier capacity than the earlier capacity. So if we try to connect all these things, there are some issues regarding the changing climatic drivers. So change in temperature, sea level, and the riverbank erosion is there, frequent embankment breaching, increasing soil salinity, also the river water salinity, saltwater inundation, loss in the productivity and production, investment is increasing in the agriculture sector, lack of alternate skill and job opportunity, and high exposure to natural hazards like cyclone and storm surge, then these all are actually basically influencing the ecosystem services, that is the agriculture, fishing, honey collection, crab collection. And this is putting pressure on the livelihood of the people. That is actually being reflected from the income, housing, household asset, and other amenities. So what's the way out? How we are intended to adapt with the changing situation? So we need to see that they came up with some kind of solutions, what they thought good, because there is no concrete adaptation plan being implemented within the Sundarban area. So there is some kind of salt-tolerant paddy reintroduced, and from the earlier experience, embankment construction and maintenance to protect the agricultural land from the saltwater inundation, rainwater harvesting, organic and mixed farming, and sometimes land conversion, agriculture to aquaculture. And in the riverine fishing, actually, they tried all these things. They tried to improve the fishing tools, change in location for the fishing purpose, following weather forecast, improve supporting tools, year-long fishing rather than the seasonal fishing. And this kind of things also they have done in the crab collection part. They again did all these things. And also in the honey collection part, which is basically 2 weeks job within a year. So more honey collectors in a group, change in location, use of plastic container, but all these they have done. But still, there is no solution, there is no improvement in their income and livelihood. In that way, actually, they came up with some kind of emergent alternative livelihood. So like aquaculture. So this is basically homestead aquaculture they introduced. There is crab fattening, box beekeeping, and tourism. You will find a lot of information from the DECMA website, decma.com, and some documentary regarding this documentary film regarding this beekeeping and crab fattening also. But some people actually, they have some training. They can prosper in this all these things, but others, they fail and they think that this is uncertain, we shouldn't go for that. And in the tourism sector, tourism is very famous in Sundarban, you know, especially in, towards the Bashanti and Goshaba area, and also in the Sagar Island area. But in the tourism sector, the investors are basically from the city. So the local people, they really work like a labor in that area, in the tourism sector, as a low-paid labor, and they are not getting direct benefit out of that. So that is the situation. So these emergent alternative livelihoods are not always helping them. So then the situation is arising like this. All these climatic drivers are basically influencing the ecosystem services and putting pressure on the livelihood. So they tried with this livelihood-based adaptation, which includes the emerging alternate livelihood options. And they thought that there will be some improvement. And we can see there's some degradation and unchanged livelihood. So what they will do? They will accept, they will modify, or they will reject. They didn't accept actually that kind of non-improvement situation. So now they have to take the decision whether they will migrate or stay back. So that is the interlinkage within the system actually that is on the field, on the ground. We can feel that, we could collect the data, we could collect the perception from the people therein. And now what is the situation? There is a lot of migration. And what is the reason of the migration? If we ask the people there, they are not really blaming the environmental events, even climate change. We thought about that, okay, climate change is a big issue. We should say that environmental events, and only 3% responded out of that. But mostly they are talking about the employment opportunity, family obligation, or some education purpose like that. So they are going towards city, Kolkata city, and the peri-urban area, and also in other states. So you can see the pattern of the migration. And in West Bengal, the migration is around 51% among the surveyed people. In Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and Gujarat is there. So it's tremendous. And we have done 1,500 survey after doing the initial survey to find out who are the migrants. So the migrant families and households. And in this data, 1,500, and also in the peri-urban area, 750 survey we have done in the DECMA project. And we tried to come up with some idea that who are actually migrating from what occupation. So the maximum migration is occurring from the agriculturists, and then the fishermen, crab collectors, and the honey collectors. Actually, they are having only 2 weeks opportunity to enter into the forest. So that is not the primary occupation. So that's why we could also find out the honey collectors who are actually doing some other job, not the crab collection or fishing or agriculture, but only honey collectors, 20% people, they are actually moving towards other states, so migrating out. And the key findings from the seasonal out migration, that the male section, the dominant age group is 21 to 30, while the female 31 to 40. And the year of the first migration is 1961, and in the case of female, that is 1991. Mostly the male people, they are engaged in the construction sector because they don't have any other skill. There is very lack of skill generation in this area. So they become engaged in the construction sector as casual labor. And the female, they are doing the same thing in the urban area. They are doing the cooking and domestic help. So migration decision is being taken by the male on his own. But while in the case of female, the husband will decide whether the female person can move or not. But there is strong disparity between the earning. The average monthly income is, in the case of male, is 9,239, while in the case of female, that is 6,119 only. So the male dominates in the migration pattern, and the preferred destination for the male and female is different. So if you can see that Kolkata area or nearby city area, the female are much more in percentage, they are moving towards that. But in the other states, the males are dominating, and the male are very much interested to go towards the peri-urban area because they have some job in the peri-urban area. They don't have any job in the city area because they don't have any skill. But in case of female, in the city area, there are a lot of jobs for that domestic help and caregiver, all these things. So we tried to come up with some risk zonation within this delta, and in the block-wise, community development block-wise. And we became surprised that sometimes people are moving from very low or low risk zone to very high zone because they don't have any understanding what is the risk. But sometimes they move for some other kind of things, like in some island, in Sajeli Island, there are a lot of schools. So people, Sajeli Island is very high risk zone. Okay, but the people is moving from low risk zone to Sajeli Island for having much more better education or facilities. Okay. Some islands, they have very good water, sweet water. So some people are moving from one island to another island for that kind of water availability. And they have some relatives, friends in those islands, and that is the pull factor in that case. So more men are migrating than women, 83% and 17%. That's the overall survey result. For better employment opportunity, mostly they are mentioning. Economic reasons are 64%, social reasons 28%, and environmental reasons are very less. Most migrants are young, male and female 21 to 30 and 31 to 40. And people will continue to move in the future. That is the future of the migration. We tried to come up with some kind of understanding regarding that. And 23% of the non-migrant households intend to migrate, and 16% of migrants intend to go back to their place. So why people act differently? Some people are migrating out, some people are not really. Why those people are acting differently under the almost similar biophysical and social ecological stress? That is a big question. We need to find out that. We have started working on the non-migration part also, along with the migration part. What are the drivers for the non-migration? As we know, the drivers for the migration at this moment. Whether we need more qualitative research with detailed ethnographic studies, that is the necessary thing, what we are thinking about. And can we establish some life story with narratives towards the migration issue? And this future migration is interesting. That is the intention of migration is there. So the migrants want to remigrate, 54% at least, they are having that kind of idea. Migrating first time is around 25% because the non-migrants, they think that migration is beneficial. So the perception on the successful migration, if you see that migrants think that 99% migrants think that it's okay. There are some benefits, specific benefits from the migration part. But again, at the same time, the non-migrants, 91% of non-migrants, they are thinking that migration is beneficial. And what is their desired destination for the migrants? The same area, Andaman, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, Uttar Pradesh, like that. And following their views, following their lifestyle and all these stories, the non-migrants also coming up with some idea where they are intended to migrate. And there is a higher percentages in the Karnataka, then the Tamil Nadu and Andaman, all these area, Uttar Pradesh and Kerala. Again, so there is some influence by the migrants towards choosing the destination also. And here is a big question that whether this migration is basically, can we talk about this kind of debatable issue that whether the migration is a way of adaptation or not. So that's all. Thank you very much for your kind patience, and sorry for the technical disruption.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful presentation. It was really insightful to understand about the different kind of stressors and the alternative emergent livelihoods in the Sundarban area, and the difference in the gendered migration aspect, which was very wonderful to know about, and the kind of research that is upcoming, and in the future we would see more of the data and targeted understanding of the climate change and its impact on the migration. I would open the floor for all the participants to whoever have any questions for Dr. Ghosh can put them in the chat box or unmute and ask the questions.
Any quick question I can respond, I think.
Sir, can I ask something?
Yes, please.
Sir, in Sundarban area, As we can see that due to climate change, lots of things are happening, and people are also, as you shared the migration thing. Sir, can we know about the वाइल्ड लाइफ, मतलब व्हाट आर द इश्यूज उनके साथ क्या चल रहे हैं, मतलब वाइल्ड लाइफ को किस तरीके से, क्लाइमेट चेंज है वो वाइल्ड लाइफ को किस तरीके से वहाँ इम्पैक्ट कर रहा है, और क्या उससे कुछ ह्यूमन कॉन्फ्लिक्ट भी देखने को मिल रहा है क्या?
Yeah, very interesting question. Actually, whenever the climate change issue is there, if we talk about, say, only one issue, that the salinity is changing. So whenever the salinity is changing, you can expect there is a change in the mangrove zonation. So high tolerant, high salinity mangroves will come up very widespread, and the low salinity species, they will disappear gradually. Okay. So all this wildlife and all the things actually, and these non-timber forest products are dependent on this availability of the mangroves and their types. So mangrove is basically their spawning ground. Okay. So then the availability of the things, the ecosystem services, say fish variety and crab variety, all this will change gradually. And the other wildlife, they are dependent on all these things. Okay. So there will be some disruption in the entire food chain within this delta system or the ecosystem. And that will be really harmful for the ecosystem itself. So, but I don't think that there is any kind of specific research is going on this, the impact of climate change on the wildlife of Sundarban Delta. And the second issue is you are talking about the conflict. So by definition or in conception, we can talk about the conflicts whenever especially the tiger is entering into the habitated area. But in our experience, last few years, if the tiger is entering into the habitated area, they are not really killing any human person. Okay. But the human, they are entering into the forest, and then only they are being attacked by the tiger. So this is not really conflict. This is intervention. Okay. So that is going on in reality. So I knew so many persons actually, they were attacked by tiger, and I never seen them in the islands. So that is there. So we need to be very careful about the conflict and issue and all these things.
Thank you, sir.
Any quick question? I think we have a little bit time. I tried to finish it very quickly.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir. I'm Sapna. So my question is, what is the some solution to reduce migration in Sundarban specifically and increase the livelihood in particularly natural environment, what they are preferring to?
But you are very much biased about that migration is bad.
No, migration is not always
Okay.
bad, but
Yeah,
they are naturally growing that environment. So that is
that's
more.
true. That's true. That's true. But if you see the there is no option for the people, because say in the Sundarban there is at least 48 lakhs of people living within Sundarban, and at least 40 lakhs. Sorry, at least 40 lakhs of mobile phones are being operated. Why I'm talking about that, I'm coming up. But there is no good mobile mechanic in the Delta. Okay. So there is a tremendous need for a good mobile mechanic. So what I'm talking about is they don't have any skill. They don't have any kind of other skill which they can use. Because in the agriculture sector, that is a lost business. Fishing sector, there is hard competition and the yield is going down. The crab sector and the honey collection sector, all these ecosystem services are going down. So what they will do? And there is no assured job in the Delta opportunity. Okay. And whenever they are getting 300 plus rupees here, if they go in Kerala, they will get 700 rupees per day. And that is assured. So what they will do? So if you provide other skill, they can come up with some kind of entrepreneurship within the Delta. And also they can go there in other places. If they go, they can get some decent job, like say carpentry, electrician, all these things, plumbing. If you provide them some skill, they can get some decent job. They will not go like as labor, casual labor, not that. So there is no solution, but skill development is necessary, and you cannot really protect from them to migrate outside. There is no opportunity otherwise, no job opportunity within the Delta. So what they will do? They have to take the hard decision. And some people still, for the place attachment and for other family obligation, they are still not migrating, but they are thinking that migration is beneficial. Okay. So probably I could respond to your question, but I couldn't provide any specific solution for that.
Thank you, sir.
Any other question, please? So now, Krishna Koli, it's over to you. And should I stay back for any kind of question answer session, or I can leave?
Sir, if we have any more questions, we will ask the participants to put the questions in the chat box, and we will mail it to you.
Yeah, yeah. You can communicate me, and I will respond accordingly. And you can provide their email address also. There is no problem.
Thank you so much, sir, from NIDM side also.
Thanks so much for your patience. Okay, thank you.
For joining in, sir.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, for moving ahead to our next speaker, today we have Dr. Lakshmi Narayan Satpathy, Professor of Geography and Director of UGC Human Resource Development Center, Calcutta University. Welcome, Dr. Satpathy. Dr. Satpathy specializes in climatology, geomorphology, hydrology, and quantitative geography. Dr. Satpathy has worked on geomorphic hazards, flood hazards in West Bengal and surrounding regions. He has devoted more than 20 years of career in UG and PG teaching, research guidance with multiple publications and books to his credit. Dr. Satpathy, we welcome you to speak on risks to coastal livelihoods, infrastructure, and ecosystem services in Sundarban. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Yes. So, very good morning to the host, particularly Krishna Koli madam, and all of you from the team NIDM, all the esteemed colleague participants today's morning. So, after a very good lecture from my friend in the morning, this was quite exhaustive, although I couldn't listen to him in its entirety. But I understand that a lot of discussions have already been made on various risk factors of the Sundarban region and various livelihood options that are going to be sustainable. So today, what I am going to discuss may be a little bit repetitive, and maybe some uncovered areas also be covered. So let me share the PPT first. Just a minute. Hello. হ্যাঁ না ঠিক আছে, আমি একটা লেকচারে আছি বুঝলেন তো, ঘন্টা ওকে ঘন্টা খানেক পর। হ্যাঁ ওকে। Okay, so let me share the screen first. That will help. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So let us first understand what is Sundarban, because there are many concepts and misconceptions also about what Sundarban means to us. Let us start from the very beginning, because there are so many Sundarbans within the Sundarban. So the common perception about Sundarban is that it is the part of the largest delta of the world. We call it Ganga Brahmaputra Meghna delta system. Then secondly, it is a very unique estuarine ecosystem of the world with lot of biodiversity And this biodiversity is very complex because of this. Since it is a shorine, that means it has both land and water, fresh water and saline water. And also it has been a recently reclaimed area, which is otherwise it should have been within the very, very active delta region. So delta building process is still going on. That's why it is very sensitive also and very fragile. These are mostly known. And it is also a very important spot or recycling point in terms of nutrient, because all the fluxes that is going through the upper reach, particularly from the Kolkata metropolitan region, it goes into the Sundarban region, and where it is taken as the nutrient. But if the pollution load is more, definitely it cannot recycle. So in that way, for the sludge materials or the aquatic biogeochemicals, so it is a recycling point. And also for the atmospheric point of view, this is another sink, very good carbon sink for the young mangroves, not for the old mangroves, because the mangroves also has a capacity, and this sink concept vis-a-vis the vegetation health, nature of the vegetations, that also differs. And here also we must understand that how much carbon sequestration can be done for this degrading mangrove environment, that is also a matter of research. And then it is also a very prominent resource region of the world, and that's why they call it a reward region. That's why people, they settled here as agriculturists by clearing the forests, and then they became fishermen. Then these two economy went on. Then later on there was other economic activities like settled agriculture and little bit commercialization of aquaculture and all that. And then ecotourism followed by unrestricted tourism and then mass tourism. And then this tourism is also killing the very purpose of the tourism. That means the scenic beauties are now becoming threatened. And at the same time, it has already been recognized as the tiger reserve. Then in this man and environment, that is the biosphere concept. And then UNESCO Natural World Heritage Site. Why? Because it is quite unique in the world. But within this Sundarban region, we have so many Sundarbans I have stated. Some people, they think, we have to think from the common man's perspective as well. It is not that for the researchers and educationists, the scientists, they are everyone for this region, and the health and sustainability of the Sundarban, the welfare of the Sundarban is not going to be in the hand of these selected people, we may call elite class people. That is not. So who are the players in the Sundarban? That is also very important. So some people, they think that Sundarban is just a forest. Some others think these are some of the islands. Some others, they think that it is the people, those who are living on the Sundarban, they are. So from the land perspective to water to the forest, the wildlife, and the people, everyone, the stakeholders, they have their different perspectives. Secondly, within the geographical area, say this entire region, this is a Sundarban. So western part of Sundarban is very different from the eastern part of the Sundarban. The northern part is very different from the southern part and the central part. So within this, there are geo-environmentally, the entire Sundarban region is different. Their vulnerability, their risk factors, their resource base, and the population environment interaction, the development level, everything is different within this entire region. So The Sundarban, although it was earlier defined as the southern part of the Dampier-Hodges line, so if this be the Sundarban, so much of the northern part has already been urbanized, and this urban region is spreading towards south, and it is squeezing the entire original, the virgin Sundarban towards east, southeast, and from the Bangladesh side also, it has already been cleared. So what is remaining as the true Sundarban, it is highly pressurized. It has been sandwiched. Secondly, we have to understand the geographicality of the region. So from this map, you can understand that geographically this has to be vulnerable or sensitive because this is at the northern head of the Bay of Bengal, and the all the influences of the sea with reference to the cyclones and cyclone induced storm surge, then inundation and whatnot, they are going to hit here. So it is a point I am going to show you later that how they converge in this particular area. So it is from the seaside, a convergence point of all the tides, storm surge, cyclonic hazards and all that, and with the saline intrusion of the saline water with those. And secondly, from the north, all the rivers, the Ganga system and Brahmaputra system, they are debouching here. And tectonically also, this part is very sensitive because here lies the suture, the swatch of no ground. That means sediments are coming to this side and they are taken away far areas. So this has to be a very active region from both the north and the south. Nowhere in the world perhaps we can see that from the north all the flood waters with the sediments they are coming towards south, and lot of human interventions in this area because Dhaka and Kolkata, these are now two mega urban development region, and in this entire Ganga Delta region with the Bengal Delta or the Bangladesh and West Bengal part, it is one of the highest population density regions of the world. So you can imagine how much of geographical and historical pressure we are facing today. Second important issue is that we have to understand the time window. This is very important. Time window is very important because for the nature, the time window is very large. So sea level rise, cyclonic activity, tectonic movement, that takes long years, long decades, or maybe centuries or millenniums, like that. But for the human settlements, human occupations, population growth, transformation of occupations and all that, they take place within very short period of time. And for the political and social development, which plays significant role in the development agenda, that is relatively very short period. So how we can synchronize this human environment with human environment, it is manifested by infrastructure development, exploitation of ecosystem services, and the path of the development, the goal of the developments. And from the natural side, these are long enough. So nature can take its own course. It can regenerate on the human degenerated environment, but it will take long period. So we can understand from the perspective of W. Hunter. So his statistical account of Bengal. So he has very rightly pointed out that this region is a very complex region compared to the other parts of the country. And then this is another important feature, that there are so many small and big islands with lot of funnel shaped estuaries entering into the landward side. And if we try to make a straight line distance from here to here and a curved line distance, definitely the curvature will be more, and the delta building process is going on in this part because sediments are coming not only from this side, and from this side also. But sediment starvations are also there because many scientists they have estimated that after the construction of Farakka barrage and also many other dams, particularly the barrages, the Durgapur barrage or the dams of the our Damodar systems, and also various embankments constructed, the roads constructed, the railway lines constructed, the sediments are not coming to this part. So this region is having sediment starvation. Sediments are not only the foundations, they create the foundations in this prograding coastal region, but they also supply rich nutrients to this geobiochemical recycling zone. But what is happening with the sediment starvations? The region is just redistributing the sediments here, and with these redistributions, there are certain points where erosions are taking place. For example, this area, the erosions are taking place. In this part, there are the sedimentations taking place. In this way, all the front, the delta fronts, the fronts of the islands in the south, wherever they are directly being hit by the cyclonic storms, uh, and also the waves, they are eroding, and the eroded materials are going somewhere else. So this is being redistributed, and accordingly the life support systems of the people that is being disturbed in the entire delta front region. Second very important thing is that water in this part, water is not coming down through the Ichamoti river system, Matla river system, Vidyadhari river systems, because these are already highly a moribund kind of rivers. They have already decayed, and from the headwater, nothing is being available from the Bangladesh side also, and from this West Bengal side also. So sweet water is not coming, only the prevalence of the saline water going up. And here it has a uh, very long embankments. These embankments were created when the lands were reclaimed by clearing the forests, because lands were inundated almost twice a day because of these tidal activities. So the embankments are still the lifelines of the entire Sundarban, particularly at the active delta region. And these embankments not only serve the purpose of barricading the saline water, they also are the lines of uh, the communication, because they are the transport lines as well. And what happened? We have we have restricted the flow of the channels inwards, and since they are just like funnels, they enter very uh, whenever they enter with the tides, they find it narrowing down, further narrowing, and a tidal prism is created. This tidal prism is created because the high volume is entering at a wide space and it is becoming narrower. So they are going up, swelling up. And it is found from the Sundarban region, from our field experiences, and it has been already well documented that the rivers during the high tide level, they are quite above the settlement levels, the agricultural fields and many other vital installations, the water supply systems and all that. So inherently, historically, geographically and geologically also, the region is already vulnerable, having certain risks. Tectonically also, you know that after the earthquake in 1934, this tilting is there, and a compaction of the sediments that is also lowering the little bit, maybe the diastrophic lowering maybe lesser than the eustrophic sea level rise, but these two are basically accentuating the aggravating the situation. So with the sediment compaction and maybe due to certain withdrawal of the groundwater, because the water is very much seasonal. So the water that comes from the rainfall of the monsoon, that cannot be kept, because contested land users all there, the storage systems are not available very much, and that's why it happens that the the water availability, the fresh water availability is gradually becoming less and less, and this is more prominent. The salinity is more prominent in the eastern side, because in the western side still we are getting some water through the Hooghly channel, through the Rupnarayan, Haldi, and many others. So the complexity is therefore different from the different geographic micro regions of the Sundarban. So population pressure is huge. Uh, Already 4.8 to 5 million plus population right now, and it is ever increasing. Although there are certain depopulation in some pockets because of the selective migrations already Tuhin sir was talking about. Because of this loss of livelihood options, they are migrating for higher wages and for better livelihood opportunities elsewhere. But that is sex selective and age selective migration. That is not going to do any benefit. Uh, Only very small, uh, we can call it a post office economy type. So some certain remittances maybe there, or certain seasonality in migration is also found in this Sundarban region. Now, so risk factors can be grouped in various perspectives. From the geographical, I have already told, the location itself, and associated with the geological factors, the compactions and tilting, and then the climatic. This is very, very important, because the seasonality of rainfall and the frequenting of these cyclones in the pre-monsoon and post-monsoon seasons, and the depressions with high rainfall during the monsoon season. Physiographically, the region is very, very low altitude. Only somewhere it is even below the mean sea level at various pockets. And after the tidal surge, and if there is a synchronization of tide and storm surge, then it is very, very difficult situation. So in these days, you know that IMD forecasts, they also assess the impacts, that how much of area can be inundated if there is a embankment breaching. Then ecological vulnerability has already been discussed. Because of this pollution load coming through the Vidyadhari, Matla, and all other river systems, and also coming through the Ichamoti river, then increase of salinity, that is also having loss of different species, and the man and animal response. Because regarding this tiger, there was a little bit of discussions earlier, that the tiger coming to the the localities, human habitation areas during the winter months. Because these winter months, they are very much disturbed also by the crab catchers. They are entering into the forests and also for honey collection, and the tourism activity that is also there, and food shortage of food is can be another very important issue, because the big cats, they require more number of predator, the preys for their livelihood. Then in terms of economy, definitely the agricultural change has already been noticed with the diminishing return in the aquaculture, particularly the commercial aquaculture, we have already found. And a new kind of aquaculture has been introduced there, we call Venami. They are export oriented, but they are using huge amount of fresh water, and they are cultivated with the artificial feed, and a lot of many other nutrients are used for them, and all the time the electricity is consumed for running the churning the water. So what is happening? Many of the ponds, they have become uh, the culture sites for these Venami shrimps, and agricultural plots are also brought under this. So I have already told you that this area has to be cyclone induced because of the location with reference to our subtropical humid subtropical environment, and many other factors favoring cyclogenesis. So this is very important. And with the global warming, the teleconnection, that means this teleconnection is that the development of the developed countries and the historically uh, emitted carbon dioxides and other greenhouse gases, they are still remaining in the atmosphere, and they are attributing to the atmosphere, earth atmospheric, this ocean atmospheric coupling of huge temperature change, significant temperature change, to change the water environment. And there are many complexities associated with the sea surface, the upwelling and cyclogenesis and many other things. But the point is that the cyclones, they are mostly in the pre-monsoon or the post-monsoon seasons. They are coming to this Sundarban region, either in the West Bengal part or in the East Bengal part, because much of the Sundarban is near in between the Bangladesh and West Bengal. So this part is definitely going to be, it is black. So many during the 1891 to 2007, the cyclone Atlas and the recent cyclones also, we have found that this region is covered by more than 70 to 80% cyclones they cover here. But most importantly, this is very important, that the number of uh, cyclonic disturbances, they are coming down during the last decades, and also the cyclonic events, they are also coming down, but the severe cyclonic events, they are gradually going up. That means the the intensity of the cyclones, if they increase, definitely they will lead to more storm surge, and then these storm surges will breach the fragile embankments. The embankments are constructed long back. So the risk factors, if we try to recapitulate, then these are the the risk factors, and premature reclamation, the polarization is a very, very important issue. But the most importantly, the hegemonic LULC. Hegemonic means that during the recent past, almost after the globalization of economy, the opening up of our Indian economy, we have become export oriented. So what is happening that this region, the entire Sundarban area, is now becoming witnessing transformative land use from agricultural, traditional agriculture to aquaculture and indigenous ecosystem-based economy to mass tourism activities, and these tourisms are actually creating a lot of nuisance, and with the air pollution, sound pollution, plastic pollution, and demand for water, potable water, and that potable water is also coming from the non-Sundarban area, and there is a water business, a thriving water business going on, and the local people, they are also not coping with this pressure of water environment. So they are becoming marginalized. The local people, they are marginalized because a lot of the businesses are actually controlled by the other people, those who are not actually residing. And since it is going to be a commercial exploitation, these commercial entrepreneurs, they have scant regard to the local ecosystems. So this is the political economic structure. So the dichotomy between environment and development is actually very much intense in this, from the traditional ecosystem to a biospheric environment where the means and tools of exploitations are very much vigorous and intense. So the political economy is basically now restricted to the rescue operations and some sort of relief and very little rehabilitation. Although there are the demands for the concrete embankments and there is the shortage of land because the land is not available. Secondly, even if there are the concretizations, we have experiences from Sagar Island that concrete dams have already been washed away because during the low tide situation, the waves that strikes at the base of the embankments and then it collapses. So it happens. This doesn't mean that all the embankments will give us a sense of high security. Sometimes they may give a false security to us. Secondly, the concrete environments can be lethal to the local environment, the ecosystems of the estuarine nature, those the ecotone areas particularly, where the land and water interface has, in this muddy coastal area, it has some different types of creatures with their different hierarchies of predator-prey relationships. So if it is a concrete environment that may save some human habitations and agricultural fields and some vital installations, the life support systems, but that may create some damage to the sensitive ecosystem of the region. Then there is a rapid transformation of the socio-culture, cultural aspects of the region. We have found from the various festivals, from the various economic structures, because we have encountered many and heard that many illegal activities are very many untoward activities are going on there with the trafficking of humans, the children, women. Then there are the arms also, and for the control on the local resources by some outsiders, or maybe with the help of some local henchmen. So power of negotiations is going on very recently, because Sundarban region is still a very rewarding region, and if the risks, the burden of risks are um, given on the millions, and the power of exploitation is goes to the hands of the few, then impoverishment is going to definitely uh, uh, a social segregation and economic segregation, uh, impoverishment and marginalization can take place. And we have found that the mobility has increased with the construction of the different bridges, but that has not given much benefit to the rank and file of, of the region. And also there are the control of the development activities, because a lot of government schemes are there, but the fruits are not going to the uh, the desired beneficiaries. Uh, in some of the cases, they are very prominent, and reports comes in the newspapers and other media as well. So what can be done? What can be done? So technological certain mitigation and adaptation measures we can think about. So technological options are there. One technological option is definitely this embankment. But more importantly, we have much success about early warning systems from the IMD network. So we can give early forecasting uh, even 7-8 days before, and impact-based forecasting as well. But is it possible to relocate everyone from their site? No, it is not possible. So then the technological options are uh, maybe explored, so that they are harmonious to be adopted, because unless that can be adopted and practiced as a life skill, then definitely it is not possible. Secondly, awareness has been generated, yes, with the 2.0 technology, the communication systems, because almost every household and everyone has the mobile, and we have this WhatsApp groups, the Facebooks, and through that dissemination of the knowledge about the cyclonic events, it is possible. But whether that is being reflected in our behavioral traits, because the aware people, they can take the risks also, and sometimes the risks are underestimated. So underestimated risks among the vulnerable people, that creates some more problems. Then institutional systems are there already, it is very robust. The Panchayat Raj institutions and other voluntary organizations working here, and also certain government organizations, the Sundarban Development Board, then Department of Sundarban Affairs, then Bakhali, Sagar Bakhali Development Authority. Many authorities are there, but often we have found that there are certain lacking of cooperation and synchronization. So again, there are some people, they overrule the others. Sometimes it is found that the district magistrates, the block development officers, the police officers, they have a very positive and active roles to play, but the Panchayati Raj institutions, which should be the participatory organizations, they are lacking in managing the risks and disasters, the hazards. Some targets. So we need to focus some targets in the line of the sustainable development goals, from poverty alleviation to making them resilient within their homelands. And for that, we must incorporate the disaster risk reduction strategies and targets in the Sendai framework for sustainable life support systems. So here, capacity building exercise in situ is very, very important, and the Panchayat Raj institutions must play a very significant role. And disaster education, and also for occupational change, because already there are a lot of pressure on the Sundarban forests that cannot accommodate this the growing demand of the population here. So sustainable tourisms and input to the ecotourism systems that can be promoted with the local change in the agricultural practices for high value crops, and this agriculture can be linked to horticulture, food processing, and also some cottage industries, because the labor, if they are skilled and reskilled, then and the cooperatives can be formed, definitely that can give some income to this population, and with proper education, the that will definitely work for the region. But for that, a perspective vision document has to be prepared for the next about 25 years like that, because already the government of India, our Prime Minister, has designated the next 25 years as the Amrit Kal. So if we have a perspective vision document, targets and goals set for the next 25 years, and we have planning for the next 5 years or 10 years with the roadmaps and documentation of the assets, liabilities, the risk factors, and on a almost annual basis, with the calculation of the risks and rewards for each habitation areas with the GIS platforms and monitoring it, then definitely Sundarban region and will get the benefit. And with that experience, this can also be replicated elsewhere in our country. So with these, this is basically a tourism activity. So tiger sighting area or wild animal area, don't miss it, misjudge it as a runway. Okay, so it is in relatively deeper part, almost at the buffer area of the Sundarban. So the clearing of the forests will not make any good. So we have to think in a different manner, and that will definitely save the Sundarban, the people of the Sundarban. If the people of the Sundarban are not saved, Sundarban is not going to be saved. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
So
sir.
let me-
It was a
Yes.
wonderful presentation. I would request participants, if you have any questions, kindly share it on chat or unmute and let Dr. Satpathy answer your questions.
Yes, please.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Hello, so this is Mohammed Sulfikar Ahmed. I have a question. My question is that has the indigenous nature of the community, has it affected the community response, considering these people have been marginalized for a very long time?
Yes, first of all, we have to understand that whether they are indigenous and for how many years one has to live to become indigenous. Every one of these
Maybe we lost his network inside. Can be. I think we should inform him कि उनका network चला गया है. Yeah, please.
Meanwhile, participants may please put their questions in the chat box. Yes, Rajesh just got disconnected. He is connecting in few minutes. So I would request if anybody has questions, please put on the chat box. And also, if you haven't changed the name of the participant's name has to be given. So please rename yourself to your name as to be shown for the attendance.
Very sorry. Very sorry. Very sorry. I was disconnected actually. So we have to understand the history of development in the region. So earlier when the East India Company that for the forests and also for land, they actually auctioned the area as lots. That's why if you go to Sundarban, you can find lot number such and such. And some places they are called company tech. That means it is a place of company. Then the leased out lands where the name like Hingalganj, that is the Henkelganj, Henkel Sahib. Then the Gosaba Island, Hamiltonabad, that means Hamilton Sahib's area, Jamindari. So they brought many people from the Chotnagpur Plateau region, the Santals. They were invited as laborers and some of them settled. Then after that, some people they went here for agriculturists, the cultivators, some others for fishermen called Halua and Jalua. So Halua means those who cultivate, Hal, the tilling, and Jalua means those throw the net. So Halua and Jalua, then Kodalia. Kodalia means those who use spade to keep the embankments and maintain it. Okay, so such nomenclatures you can find there. Then later on from East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, lot of migrant people came here from parts of Midnapur district where the flood is a very common phenomena. They also migrated in the western part. So from north, South 24 Pargana, from east, Bangladesh, Khulna region, then from west, some people from the western, some from the Midnapur. So they are the forming now the indigenous population. Now who are the outsiders? Outsiders are not many. They are only few. They are basically introducing outsider consumer culture. It is not the outsider population. Population are them. They are the indigenous population, but their culture is transforming. Their occupation is transforming. Their needs and greeds are transforming. That is happening there. Okay, any other?
Sir, am I audible?
Yes.
Sir, firstly, thank you for such an insightful presentation. I have a question to know that you have mentioned a term polarization. So I would
Yes,
like
yes.
to know a little bit details about that, if you please.
Yes, polder land in the Scandinavian area, the sea level is higher than the country level. So they have prepared dikes, embankments. The same thing has happened here in case of Sundarban region. What they said that reclamation, actually claimation. When they claimed the Sundarban from the active part, the area was inundated frequently twice a day due to this uh, tidal effects. And tides also varies. The highest of high tide during the new moon, that can be very, very high inundating. So the embankments has to be created. Otherwise, you cannot get the land salinity free. So that we may the nomenclature we can borrow from the older region of the Scandinavian countries to the Sundarban region. So we can very safely call it a polderization.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Any other question?
Hello, sir. Myself, Garima Agarwal from NIDM. Thank you for
Yes,
such a nice, comprehensive presentation. I have a very, small query. We have been discussing about the gaps and the issues which are there to sustain the Sundarban regions. Can you give some insight on what should be the sustainable measures actually to prevent and to reduce the disaster risk over there, because people are migrating, the occupations are not sustainable, they are diversifying also. And but previous presentation also I saw that a lot of migration, out migration is also happening there. So
yes.
how the present policy structure is supporting that particular region to encourage the conservation of biosphere or how to save ecosystem and all. So any insight on that would help us. Actually, we are planning a small study on this topic, so that will help us.
Yes. So we have to first understand the historical evolution of the area. Number one, there are lots of knowledge gaps. Knowledge gap is not among the educationist scientists, planners also, they know it very well. Because Sundarban is a golden spot for the researchers, and thousands of research papers have already been published in terms of books, in journals, and thousands of crores of money has been spent on different projects for the region from all the subjects, ranging from physical sciences, natural sciences, earth sciences, social sciences, and whatnot. But the knowledge gap is basically the gap of communication with the local people. I should not call them indigenous people. With the local community, the language of communication is not there. So whatever the scientific understanding already been achieved, that should have gone to the local people for their empowerment. Secondly, we should break the traditional system of power game. The elected form of government must be there, but the local panchayati raj systems should be given more power. This is second thing. Third is that in academia, NGO, local administration, synergy should be developed. This synergy is missing. And since the educationists, they are doing in their own way, the politicians, bureaucrats, they are doing in their own way, and the VOs, voluntary organizations, they are doing in their own way, there is no dialogue, no platform is there to synchronize the thoughts and actions. Very recently, in Diamond Harbour Women's University, I personally requested the Honorable Vice Chancellor Madam to establish a center for interdisciplinary studies in Sundarban. She agreed, and a center is going to be opened very soon. There are other centers for disaster management and all that. And in this center, we requested the academia to invite these people, to bring them in one fold so that a dialogue can take place and they understand what is what. This knowledge gap is there, and this knowledge gap is creating some problems. So local representatives must come, the MLA, MP, the bureaucrat, they should come to the platform and discuss. They should also know what are the alternatives. Unless they know the alternatives, they are the policymakers, are the the elected representatives. The the actions are taken place by the bureaucrats and the police administration. And in some other way, the rescue relief operations are done by the VOs. And what the academia doing? They are just collecting data, they are analyzing and publishing elsewhere. This knowledge is not going to them. And that's why there are certain gaps. We have to minimize, reduce this gap first. Then we must be part of the agenda, part of the goals, targets, and that should be set from in a time bound manner. And then we have to think that what can be done at different sectors and different regions, the micro regions of the Sundarban, because Sundarban is a highly heterogeneous system, both historically and geographically. So plot by plot, island by island, that may be different. Okay, so that should be done, I think.
Thank you so much.
Any more questions? Sir, I had one question to ask.
Please.
From your recollections from the past work, how would you say, in the recent years, we have seen that there was Amphan, when there was Amphan and other cyclonic activities, there was also the COVID impact. So how are these compounding impacts of risks and the cascading impacts, and how are the risks awareness in the community at Sundarban, and how what are your recollections from that aspect, and what more research we could do and awareness generation we can do in that aspect?
Yes. First of all, the Amphan induced damages were less than the Ayla, because this time the early warning system was very prominent and the time of landfall was also different, because in the early morning hours, the wee hours, Ayla struck, but Amphan struck in the late evening. So people had sufficient time to be aware about it and to be relocated with some movables. This is number one. But there was a problem of the COVID. But the administration was very proactive this time, very, very proactive, under the direct leadership of the Honorable Chief Minister and all the district magistrates, and everyone under her capacity. So it worked well. But the problem is that at the lower level, at the panchayat level or village level, not everyone got the similar benefits because of certain political issues. So sometimes politically the communities are divided, and it happens everywhere throughout the world, and this is more so in our countries. So because nowadays Manav Jamin is treated as the most important Jamin and the power source of power and other benefits. So people are divided, my people and others people. So in this way, certain pockets were deprived or more rewarded. But at the time of risks, hazards and disasters, if there are the local level, community level resilience that can be developed, then this sort of my people and others people will be eliminated. Such reports came. But the fortunate thing is that we, through our experiences, we have learned a lot how to overcome such barriers, the social barriers, the political barriers as well. So definitely, if the local higher up representatives, they have a very good understanding of the entire region at micro level, then they can instruct the local administrator to behave in a different way. Okay, because it is also again a communication gap between the lowermost political leadership and the higher level political leadership. Okay, that is the question.
Thank you, sir. Any more questions? If not,
I think
yes.
I think there is no.
Yes, sir. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
so I have a request. Can you please, if permitted, can you please send me this video of my lecture, if possible?
Yes, sir. The video
Yes,
is
sir.
being recorded, so we will have.
Because some students, they may prefer, or the link if it is there in the YouTube or somewhere else, so that
Sir,
our students
it will
can
be available
get it.
on NIDM portal after the program. All 3 days lectures will be available on NIDM YouTube channel, and I will send you the link. And thank you very much,
Thank you
sir,
very much.
for joining on a single call. And I'm very grateful, sir. Jana sir requested ki yes, you should call to Sarpati sir, and he will definitely help you.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, sir.
Okay. Okay, I'm really grateful to you, Madam Garima, and also you, Dwivedi ji,
Thank you,
and
sir.
Krishna Kali, and all the organizers and participants. It is also a learning experience for me as well. Through the questions, I have to then think in a different manner. Okay, all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
With
sir.
your kind permission, I am
Thank you so
leaving.
much, sir.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Quickly,
joining
I
us.
would request participants to switch on their videos for a group photograph.
Yeah, we can take that.
Okay, please. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank
you.
you all. We would join again tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. I request all of you to join in at 11:30.
Okay.
Thank you.